guys, it's me, Emily again, and I wanted to talk a little bit about building relationships with students and families at the beginning of the year. I'd like to preface this with two things. One, I know that you already know this is super important. You wouldn't be here teaching if you didn't value building relationships. But I also want to preface this with saying that I know the beginning of the school year can be super crazy and super stressful, and I just wanted to give you a couple of tips and strategies to help ensure that you are building those relationships that are going to help you be your most successful self this year. Cool. All right, let's dive in. So my first suggestion, something that's been really helpful for me, is at the beginning of the school year, I always connect with the existing staff at my school, specifically the teachers that taught my students the year before. I always go up to those teachers and I just ask them, which are the families, which are the students that I really need to prioritize building a relationship with? And that's not to build judgment or not to create judgments about anyone. You're not trying to figure out who are going to be the tough kids or who are going to be the parents that are more challenging. It's more just to figure out which are the students and families that really need a strong relationship in order to be successful in your class. And if you can get a couple of names from people, it just helps you prioritize and make sure that you're reaching out to those people as soon as possible. Cool. Second thing I would do is set a goal. Think about that first month and how many positive conversations do you want to have with each parent and how many non-content related, so like non-math, non-reading related conversations do you want to have with each student? Depending on how many kids you have, this number might vary. If you are like a first grade teacher who has 30 kids versus a high school teacher that maybe has like 150 kids, obviously that goal might be different. My goal is usually to talk to each parent twice and to have two non-academic related conversations with each student twice as well in that first month. With parents specifically, I want to be super clear that these should be conversations that are strictly positive. So if you need to call a student's parent and tell them that that student got in a little bit of trouble that day, unfortunately, that doesn't really count towards building a relationship. It's really those positive conversations throughout the year that help you build that trust. So you want to make sure you're focusing on those specifically. So for parents, create a system. This is something that not that many teachers do, but I really, really recommend. The beginning of the year, like I said, can be crazy and a lot of things fall on your plate. Find a way to track how you are working towards that goal. I personally just use a roster for each class and put check marks when I have contacted that parent. You can create a separate spreadsheet, do whatever makes the most sense to you, but have a system to make sure that you're holding yourself accountable. The two strategies that I do in order to make sure that I am making those touches with parents is first, I send out an introductory letter, and that just has a little bit of information about me, where I came from, why I'm a teacher, things like that. I want to make sure that each parent is learning about me just like their students are, and they get to see me as more than just the math teacher, but they see that I'm a human who's really excited to love their kids and work really hard for their kids this year. The second thing I do is I have a Post-it that I keep on my desk that tells me how many phone calls, text messages, emails, or conversations I'm going to have each day. My goal is usually around 4. I'm a phone call person. That's what's most comfortable for me. If that's not what's comfortable for you, then stick to texting, emailing, or finding that parent outside when they're dropping their kid off or picking them up from school. Do what is right for you, but definitely set that daily goal to ensure you're working towards that monthly goal. Okay. In terms of students, again, have a system. This can be a little bit harder to track because it's throughout the day, but keep that roster with you on a clipboard and really make sure that you're getting to everyone. There are always more introverted kids who get left out, and when you make the effort to talk to them just as much as your more extroverted kids, it makes a world of a difference, and it's going to make your classroom community feel a lot stronger throughout the year and allow your kids to be a lot more successful. 3 strategies I use when getting to know my kids, especially at the beginning of the year, but certainly throughout the whole year, is I'm a big fan of writing cards. Behind me on this shelf, I have probably 500 blank cards, and each night I write about 4 to students and just tell them something I noticed about that day. Hey Juan, I noticed that today in class you really put yourself out there. I'm really excited to get to know you this year. Or, hey Stephanie, I noticed that you were wearing a soccer jersey today. I'm so curious about that. Are you on a team? Will you invite me to your games? Tell me about that. Just making sure that each student knows that you notice them and that you see them as an individual in some way. I also really like leaving those cards on their desks. So they get there in the morning and they're like, "What's this?" And it's like, "It's from your teacher." And they're always like kind of embarrassed, but in a really great way. It's awesome. Second thing, sometimes cards take too long and you don't have enough time for that with planning and grading and everything else. So I stick to Post-its other times. So I'll just keep like a pad like this with me as they're working on their do now. During homeroom, I'll just like go around, write a quick note, and put it on their desk. The note can be like, "Hey, you're amazing. I love you. You're incredible. Love, Miss Felsenthal." Can be that simple. Or like, "Hey, I noticed you got a haircut. Looking awesome." Or, "Hey, I noticed you're looking a little tired today. Is there anything I can do to help?" Just like a quick note, again, to make sure each student knows that you notice them and that you are seeing them as an individual. Goes a really long way. Last thing, if neither one of those are like really working with how your time is working out for you, then just make a point to have those conversations like in the hallways as kids are coming in and out of class, maybe during transitions, maybe when they finish their do now early or they're packing up at the end of class, different things like that. But again, make sure that you are reaching that goal that you set each month to talk to each kid and have a non-academic conversation with them uh, in those first couple weeks of school. This is something that can get deprioritized really quickly, but like I said, it's going to allow you to like love this job so much more and allow your kids to be a lot more successful. I love building relationships. I hope some of this was helpful. If it wasn't, let me know. If you want support, if you have questions, please, please, please reach out. I'm just so excited to work with you guys this year.